My name is Carmela Noel Mamrell. I am a first-year international business major.
Thank you. Your first question is, Akbayan is a cultural organization at heart. With the ever-increasing number of non-Filipinx students joining the organization, how do you plan on staying true to the organization's cultural roots?
So this question actually goes in hand with the vision, with the platform that I have in mind. So my platform kind of addresses the idea of self-identification, and because Akbayan is a Filipino organization, we value the Filipino culture, but I also want to be able to highlight the fact that everyone comes from different backgrounds and we all just come together as one big organization.
Thank you. Next question is, a series of social media posts have popped up scrutinizing the Filipino culture. As a cultural chair, how do you plan to challenge these posts?
Can you repeat the question?
A series of social media posts have popped up scrutinizing the Filipino culture. As a cultural chair, how do you plan to challenge these posts?
Rather than acting rashly and harshly and trying to go against those posts and just commenting negatively on it, I would rather just spread more positivity towards the Filipino culture and try to highlight the beauty and value of it, and try to let people understand that the comments that these people are making aren't true, and that they shouldn't focus on the negatives, and they should look to the beauty of it and the positives.
Thank you. Name one cultural hero or cultural heroes you had when growing up, and why are they your hero?
One hero that I really valued growing up was Josefina, or Joey Guerrero. She was a woman who had developed leprosy way back when, and she utilized her disease to kind of like gather intelligence and information against the Japanese troops that were kind of stationing themselves in Manila. And I valued her because you don't really see a lot of female Filipinexes in history, or like making a stance in history. So I wanted.
Your next question is, Asian ethnicities are vastly misrepresented in media today. How do you plan to tackle this lack of representation?
Can you please repeat the question?
Yes. Asian ethnicities are vastly misrepresented in media today. How do you plan to tackle this lack of representation?
I would first like to advocate for having Asians themselves try to represent themselves in media, because a vast majority of the misrepresentation comes from people who aren't even Asian, taking on those roles and using stereotypes that have developed over the past many years. So by having Asians represent themselves, it just allows us to just take little steps towards proper representation.
Thank you. Your next question is, how do you intend to inform general members on Filipino culture and history outside of workshops and social media posts?
I would attempt to do so by doing little activities. So rather than just educating them and just doing things lecture-based, having interactive events would also be helpful for the general members to understand not only like just the important history of it, but also like how the Filipino culture is as a whole.
Thank you. A lot of the duties of the cultural chair tend to overlap with those of the community chair. What do you believe is the difference between these two positions, and what will you do to highlight these differences?
Both the cultural chair and the community and political affairs chair spread awareness about the Filipino culture, but what I see as a difference is that the cultural chair works towards mostly the education and understanding of the Filipino culture, whereas the COCO chair works towards the more historical aspect behind Filipinexes, such as like the lessons we learned during rap about the Delano Manongs. And
do you think that the cultural chair should be very knowledgeable of the Filipinx culture prior to their term? Why or why not?
I do not believe that the cultural chair should have knowledge about the Filipino culture prior to their term, mainly because I believe that, personally speaking, I do not know much about my own culture, but I believe that with the passion that I have for the culture that I'm learning in and that I'm thriving in, that would be able to push me to learn more and try to like educate everyone about our culture.
Thank you. October is known as Filipino American History Month. What are your plans to promote and spread awareness during this month, as well as Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month in May?
Social media is definitely one big thing that we use to utilize and spread information about the events that we hold, as well as major events that we hold. But one of the things that I would like to utilize is little activities just to kind of like highlight the Filipino culture and Asian Pacific Islander culture.
Thank you. For these next few questions, you are allowed to answer within 1 minute. Mabuhay is an annual cultural showcase that the cultural chair coordinates. How do you plan, if elected as cultural chair, to make next year's Mabuhay stand out?
I would definitely want to get into contact with previous cultural chairs and ask them questions about like how their mabuhays went well and what they saw went wrong with their mabuhays, and try to utilize the pros and cons from those events and try to apply them to what I would be planning in the future. Because by taking pros and cons, you're being consistent with the goods that have happened with those events, and by taking the cons, you're applying them towards trying to fix the issues that have gone wrong and trying to work towards bettering those negatives.
Thank you. What is your vision, and if not, your overall theme for Mabuhay?
So my vision goes hand in hand with the platform that I have in mind. It's the idea of the value of self-identification, or halaga ng sarili. So basically, as I said before, Akbayan is indeed a Filipino organization, but we are consisted of so many other identities and cultures as well. My motto was, within one we are many, and that's why I'd like to utilize the fact that we come together as one from many different backgrounds, And I want to be able to highlight the fact that everyone has their own identity, whether it's their cultural identity, their sexual identity, their gender, their astrological sign, or whatnot. But someone's identity is something that paints who they are as a person, and I want people to be able to take pride in what they want to identify as.
Thank you. Our organization has reached a membership over 1,000 people, creating a diverse demographic. Is it more important for you to accommodate diversity or being a Filipino American organization? Why?
As a Filipino organization, we do a lot to highlight the value and the beauty and the importance of the Filipino culture. But because we are, again, as I said, we are diverse, I think it would be best to address the diversity because we wouldn't want people to feel left out or feel like they don't belong because they don't identify with the vast majority of what the organization is composed of.
Thank you. And your last question is, why is culture important?
Culture is important because it makes up a large root of who we are as people. It builds it's the foundation of, again, what we say that we identify as. It also makes up a large majority of how we choose to live our life. Culture isn't just ethnic based, it's also a sense of morals and how you choose to act on your action, how you choose to make your how you act and how you choose to make decisions in the future.
Thank you. Let's give a round of applause.